Bola Oba's AI video series of G.T. Basden's Among the Ibos of Nigeria. Episode 3. The Ibo Country. In 1900, Onitsha had not aspired to anything approaching its present importance, and it retained much of its primitive simplicity. The commercial center of the district was at Abuchi, 2 or 3 miles downstream, and the administrative quarters, first of the Royal Niger Company and later of the government, were at Asapa, on the western side of the river. To the north of the town, following the left bank of the Nkisi stream, on the site now covered with government buildings, a large coffee plantation was laid out. Of the surrounding country, even of that comparatively near the settlement, but little was known. The existing maps were useless, as none contained reliable data, the names inserted being based upon reports and conjectures. Some names were curious: Akpam and Nri. The latter is the name of a small town, which is the headquarters of a priestly cult, whose special functions are connected with the coronation of kings. Hence, Nri, men, priests, being travelers, were met with frequently. When asked whence they came, the answer was a wave of the hand towards the east, and thus the name was given, in mistake, to the whole country lying east of Onitsha. It was only during the last few years, since the British government assumed the administration, that appreciable progress had been made in opening up the interior districts. At the time of Basden's landing at Onitsha, there was an attractive field for investigation in which the native could be studied in his primitive environment. The subsequent years were equally interesting, but from another standpoint, that of a spectator watching a nation passing through a period of transition. The process still continues, and the people and the country are changing at an extraordinarily rapid rate. The old conditions and landmarks are disappearing, and modern developments will soon obliterate all signs of ancient history. The limits of the Ibo Country have now been approximately defined, and the territory apportioned into districts. A network of government stations has been established, and trading and missionary interests show evidence of vigorous prosperity. The Ibos are distributed over the greater part of the central province of the Protectorate and number about 4 millions, probably half the total population of southern Nigeria. In the Delta districts, and especially in the neighborhood of Bonny and other coast towns, they are not indigenous. They consist chiefly of slaves under the control of heads of houses. These slaves often outnumber the original inhabitants, and their language is of such vitality that Bonny Ibo predominates over the other dialects of the district. From the coastline of the Bight of Benin, the Ibo Country skirts the Ibibio, Arochukwu, and Efik territories. Its eastern boundary is formed by the Cross River. On the southern and western sides, it stretches to the borders of the Ijaw, Jekri, and Igbo tribes, and then spreads across the Niger to the confines of Benin. After passing 6 degrees 31 minutes north latitude, it narrows once more and extends in wedge-like formation until its northernmost limits reach the boundary between southern and northern Nigeria, where the Akpotos and Munchis are the nearest neighbors. The area covered by the tribe being so extensive, it follows that there is wide divergence in the physical features of the country. In the delta regions, the land is very low-lying, intersected by innumerable creeks, and for a considerable portion of the year becomes a typical tropic swamp. The vegetation is rank, and the atmosphere humid and enervating. Clothes, if left exposed to the night air, even inside the houses, are quite damp by morning. Rain falls in great quantities. As the sun sinks on a fine day, banks of white mist roll up, enveloping everything in their damp and chilly folds. In the neighborhood of Onitsha, the prospect is more pleasing. For the traveler striking inland in an easterly direction, the scenery improves almost immediately, and charming hills and valleys open out on all sides. The vegetation consists chiefly of scrub and jungle grass, with big patches of moorland here and there. Extensive and picturesque clumps of trees are scattered about, indicating the presence of towns and villages, or marking the sizes of burial grounds. On these higher levels, high only as compared with the delta, the soil is reddish and sandy, and except in certain hilly spots, singularly stoneless. One has often seen holes open to a considerable depth without a solitary pebble being unearthed. However deep one penetrates, the soil retains its color, and the only difference is the presence of more or less clay. It is of poor quality for agricultural purposes, and much labor is involved for which there is frequently no adequate return. The giant elephant grass, the shorter jungle grass, and a variety called atta, or spear grass, flourish. This last is very exasperating to farmers and to anyone else desirous of cleaning the ground, because every particle of root is capable of vigorous propagation. On the western side of the Niger, the aspect is totally different. A large part of the country is covered with forest. It is on a lower level than the eastern side and is much more fertile. Great quantities of yams and other crops are raised, and labor is richly rewarded. To provide sites for villages and land for agricultural purposes, clearings are made in the forest, and this has led to ruthless and wholesale destruction of valuable timber. The creation of a forestry department by the government will, no doubt, do much to remedy this evil. In proportion to what might be expected, flowers are scarce. The most beautiful are the many varieties of lilies and orchids. Palms predominate amongst the trees. The oil palm, Elaeus guinensis, being of the greatest value, it flourishes in a greater or less degree throughout the Ibo Country. The Raphia vinifera and other varieties furnish the natives with copious supplies of palm wine. The coconut also abounds, together with many other species of palm. The uses to which the palm trees and their products are put by the natives are unlimited, every part being utilized in one form or another. Coming next, the Ibo Country, continued.
With a style so divine, never missed a party, always first in the line.
Echo Round City. In the heart of Lagos, long before hashtags and influencers, there were kings of the streets, big boys who ruled the 1980s and 1990s. Their swagger, their hustle, their code. Now, for the first time ever, their untold story comes alive. From the pages of an authorized biography to the big screen of your imagination, stay tuned for the book-to-movie premiere of Echo Round City, the authorized biography of one of Lagos's legendary street big boys, streaming exclusively on YouTube.com at Bola Oba from January 1st, 2026. Echo Round City, the legend lives on.